As you guys know, I jump really high when I shoot. So I don't know if it was like on the release, and I just felt like a weird...
Chennedy Carter responds to Caitlin Clark backlash. Shocking justification. Revealed. Chennedy Carter has officially broken her silence, stepping into the spotlight and justifying what millions witnessed as one of the most controversial moments in recent WNBA history. The shoulder check that sent Caitlin Clark sprawling to the hardwood. In a recent interview, Carter described the blatant hit as nothing more than competitive energy, brushing off the incident as part of normal trash talk on the court. But this isn't just any ordinary post-game explanation. Carter's bold defense arrives at a critical moment, just as training camps across the league are filling up and free agents scramble for their shot. And yet, Carter remains unsigned, sitting on the outside looking in as the WNBA powers forward without her. Her timing is impossible to ignore. Months of calculated silence shattered only now, when desperation seems to be setting in. But while Carter tries to rewrite the narrative, Angel Reese finds herself drowning in the fallout, her name dragged deeper into controversy as the public begins to associate her closely with the league's growing toxicity toward Clark. Reese, already positioned as one of Clark's loudest detractors, is now tied directly to the scandal by proximity, fueling speculation that the real reason for Carter's aggressive outburst had everything to do with the ugly culture surrounding Clark's rise, and Reese's role in it. Even as Carter speaks, it's Angel Reese who feels the heat, with fans and sponsors questioning whether her behavior off the court is helping fuel these dangerous rivalries inside the league. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark remains the picture of composure. After being targeted so aggressively, the Fever star never retaliated, never lashed out. She simply got up, brushed herself off, and kept playing, letting her game do the talking. It's a striking contrast to Carter's excuses and Reese's outbursts. Where Clark demonstrates professionalism, her rivals sink deeper into scandal. Carter calls it just basketball. But the replay footage tells a very different story. Frame by frame, the video shows Carter veering off course with clear intent, not toward defense, but toward Clark. Her eyes lock onto the unsuspecting rookie. There are no elbows thrown beforehand, no trash talk visible, just Carter's deliberate decision to cross the court and deliver a blow after the play was already finished. This wasn't heat-of-the-moment frustration. It was a calculated attack. And with millions watching, Carter's explanation simply doesn't hold up. Adding to the damage, Carter's long history of drama and disciplinary issues has once again resurfaced, casting an even darker shadow over her claims of innocence. Fans and analysts are quick to recall Carter's indefinite suspension from the Atlanta Dream back in 2021, following a heated locker room dispute that was deemed detrimental to the team. That suspension wasn't a fluke. It was the red flag that warned the league about Carter's volatile behavior, a pattern now fully exposed thanks to her latest misstep. And the consequences have been swift. Behind closed doors, teams across the WNBA are making it clear. They're done with this kind of distraction. Carter's name remains off every roster, and now even brands are beginning to distance themselves. The league itself, poised for a historic season of growth, has no room for players who threaten its image. Quietly, endorsements have stalled. Sponsorship conversations have dried up, and not a single GM is willing to take the risk. But the fallout doesn't stop with Carter. Angel Reese, long seen as a marketable young star, is now feeling the pressure too. Her connection to Carter and her consistent role as a vocal critic of Clark have put her in the crosshairs of a backlash she may not have anticipated. Multiple reports suggest that brand partners are reconsidering their association with Reese, as the public narrative turns against the toxic hostility aimed at Clark. With every passing week, Reese's visibility seems to work against her, casting her less as a bold leader and more as part of the problem. At the same time, the WNBA's internal response has been anything but passive. League officials are reportedly in discussions about tightening player conduct rules, specifically citing incidents like Carter's shoulder check as the reason. Legal advisors aligned with Clark's camp continue to push for accountability, armed with undeniable video evidence and growing public support. The league faces a decision: allow this behavior to define its future, or make an example of those who cross the line. All signs point to the latter, and as Reese and Carter scramble to defend themselves, Clark's star only shines brighter. Her refusal to engage in the drama, combined with her undeniable skill on the court, has won her the backing of fans, sponsors, and even league officials who see her as the face of the WNBA's next chapter. Reese's PR team may work overtime, and Carter may spin all the excuses in the world. But neither can match the credibility Clark has built simply by staying focused on the game. The result is clear. While Carter and Reese flounder, Clark rises. And perhaps the most brutal blow has come from the silence itself. Not a single WNBA team has offered Carter a contract. Training camps are underway, rosters are being finalized, and Carter's phone remains silent. For a player who once averaged 17.5 points per game, this level of rejection speaks louder than any press release ever could. Even Carter's former team, the Chicago Sky, didn't bother extending a qualifying offer, effectively showing her the door without a second glance. The message is unmistakable. Talent isn't enough when trust and accountability are missing. And the narrative has only solidified further with recent comments from league executives, some going so far as to say they wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole. Carter's name has become radioactive, and Reese's isn't far behind. Both players now serve as cautionary tales for how fast a career can collapse when personal grudges outweigh professionalism. With the 2025 WNBA season shaping up to be the league's biggest yet, there's no mistaking the direction the league is headed. The stars who rise will be the ones who show class, focus, and leadership. Caitlin Clark stands as the embodiment of that future. Meanwhile, Reese and Carter are left on the outside looking in, their efforts to tear Clark down backfiring in spectacular fashion. They set out to wreck Clark's career, but instead, they may have destroyed their own. Chennedy Carter was once seen as one of the most electric young scorers in the WNBA, a player whose raw talent and explosive offensive ability should have secured her a spot on any roster. But now, with the 2025 WNBA training camps just days away from opening on April 27th, Carter remains unsigned, sitting on the sidelines while teams finalize their lineups for what is expected to be the league's biggest season yet, driven by record-breaking fan interest and skyrocketing media coverage centered around Caitlin Clark. This stunning turn of events didn't happen by accident.
It traces directly back to one moment, a moment that Carter herself probably wishes she could erase. June 10th, 2024, a regular season matchup between the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever. What should have been just another game on the schedule instead became the defining low point of Carter's career.
After Clark calmly sank a mid-range jumper, Carter, without any basketball reason, veered sharply across the court, locked eyes on Clark, and slammed her shoulder into the rookie star's ribs, sending her crashing to the hardwood. The referees initially called it a common foul, but the video replay told a different story. The review was swift and damning. The foul was immediately upgraded to a flagrant. And in that moment, Carter's reputation took a hit far more brutal than the shoulder check itself. The clip of Clark being blindsided went viral within hours, spreading like wildfire across social media. It wasn't just the physicality that shocked fans, it was the intent, clear, deliberate, calculated. This wasn't basketball, this was personal, but the fallout from that incident didn't fall on empty ground. Carter's history of volatility had already been well documented. Back in 2021, while playing for the Atlanta Dream, Carter was suspended indefinitely for what the team called conduct detrimental to the team. Reports at the time detailed locker room clashes, arguments with teammates, and an inability to mesh within a professional environment. She was later traded to the Los Angeles Sparks and then moved again to the Chicago Sky. But the red flags followed her every step of the way. Benchings, rumors of tension with teammates, and whispers from executives questioning whether Carter could ever truly buy into the team-first mentality that defines successful franchises. The shoulder check on Clark wasn't the start of the problem, it was the tipping point. Meanwhile, the WNBA itself was undergoing a transformation. Caitlin Clark's arrival in the league brought unprecedented attention, smashing attendance, records, and boosting TV ratings to heights the league had never seen. The Clark effect was real. Suddenly, every game she played was a must-watch event. Fever merchandise flew off shelves, networks battled for broadcast rights, and with the league's growth so tightly tied to the popularity of its new superstar, protecting that momentum became a priority at every level of the organization. The WNBA was no longer just fighting for respect. It was capitalizing on a gold rush of fan engagement, and the last thing anyone wanted was for that rising tide to be stained by the perception of unchecked aggression toward the league's brightest star. Which brings us back to Carter. As free agency began in January 2025, the Chicago Sky made a quiet but clear decision. They declined to extend a qualifying offer, making Carter an unrestricted free agent. No strings attached, no sign and trade, just a full release. And from that moment, the silence was deafening. Across the league, no team stepped forward, no workouts, no rumored interest, nothing. One unnamed WNBA executive put it bluntly in a recent interview: "We wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole." Harsh words, but they reflect the sentiment echoing through front offices around the league. Talent alone isn't enough when the baggage outweighs the benefit. Then, on April 20th, just 1 week before training camps were set to begin, Carter finally broke her silence. Sitting down for an interview with streamer N3On, Carter attempted to reframe the narrative. She dismissed the viral shoulder check as just a tap, claimed she may have been elbowed on the play before, compared her interaction with Clark to moments of smack talk common in men's basketball, even went so far as to call Clark a great player and liken her to LeBron James. The pivot was glaring. This was the same Carter who had refused to answer Clark-related questions for months. The same Carter who initially dodged accountability entirely. Now, with no contract in hand, the story had changed, but the footage hadn't. Fans didn't buy the sudden change of tone. Social media comments poured in, calling out Carter for what many saw as a desperate attempt at damage control. One viral tweet summed up the collective eye roll perfectly. "You all seriously don't believe her, right?" Basketball analysts were quick to weigh in as well. Some pointed out that Carter's repeated insistence that the shove was no big deal was the exact problem. The issue wasn't just the shoulder check. It was the lack of accountability, the refusal to admit wrongdoing, the absence of genuine remorse. In a league where trust and chemistry are everything, Carter's words only reinforced the concerns that had kept teams away from her door. It wasn't just about a single play. It was about whether any franchise could believe she'd be a reliable teammate moving forward. And this comes at a time when the WNBA is more image-conscious than ever. Sources around the league report that leadership is actively reviewing conduct policies, spurred in part by incidents like Carter's, to ensure that the league's reputation remains intact as it enters this explosive growth phase. Protecting rising stars like Clark and Paige Buchers, ensuring a culture of professionalism, and capitalizing on mainstream media deals are now central to the WNBA's strategy. In this climate, Carter's actions, and more importantly, her response to those actions, could not have come at a worse time. But perhaps the most devastating blow to Carter's hopes came not from the league office, but from the locker rooms themselves. Multiple reports suggest that beyond the executives, it's players who have voiced concerns about sharing the floor with Carter. Teammates talk, word spreads, and in a sport where locker room culture can make or break a season, being labeled as a chemistry killer is a stigma that's hard to shake. And so here we are, just days away from training camp, with Carter still on the outside looking in. No contract, no tryout, no buzz. In WNBA history, no player who averaged over 17 points per game has ever been left unsigned at this stage without injury as a factor. The message is clear. Scoring alone isn't enough. To buy forgiveness, the WNBA has made its choice, whether explicitly or not. It's protecting the stars who elevate the game, not the ones who drag it down. As for Carter, her latest attempt to rewrite the story might have backfired even worse than staying silent. Instead of rebuilding trust, it's highlighted just how unwilling she remains to take true responsibility. Instead of showing growth, it's cemented the perception that nothing has changed. And with each passing day, as training camps open and rosters lock, the window for a comeback closes just a little more. Talent may win games, but character wins contracts. And right now, Chennedy Carter is learning that lesson the hard way.